Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back. Another episode of BU Podcast, part of Supermom's Magic Circle. And today we have an amazing woman, an amazing mom. Her name is Doris, and she runs happybunny.coach. She's a life and leadership coach, and she will have so much to share with us. Welcome, Doris.
Hey, how are you, Roxandra?
I'm really good. Thank you. I'm very happy to have you here. And I can't wait to share with the world your story. Your story is really inspiring. I think when I met you and I was like, oh my gosh, you did so much. I'm like, yes, tell us more. Would you like to share a bit about your journey in business? Because I know you had a different business as well. So tell us a bit business and who you are and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a life and leadership coach, as you said. I came to this journey over the kind of last 3 years. So before that, I did nearly 20 years in corporate. I did lots of different roles. I was jack of all trades, master of none. And while I was doing my corporate career, that's where I met my husband. And before you know it, the story goes, before you know it, you've got two kids, right? And I had two kids and I took 10 months off for each of them and then went straight back to full-time working. So I was a full-time working professional, full-time with two kids. And then I was like, at some point, I got to the point where I was like, is this all there is in life? I'm not having as much fun as I thought I was going to have, right? And then what's what happens is that the company had, around COVID, had a bit of a restructuring. So I kind of put my hand up and said, yeah, I think it's time for me to go. My husband was like, no, you don't really want to go. Yeah, I do want to go. And it's like, yeah, but thinking about the money side of it, right? I was like, yeah, but I think it's time to go. I wouldn't want to go. And he supported me in that. So yeah. And then actually after I left, he got headhunted. So we moved the whole family to Greece, which was where he had his job. And I was like, okay, I don't have a job. I was thinking of moving back into corporate. And I was like, okay, I don't know it. I don't know Greece. So let me come here, settle the kids in, take 6 months out and see what it is that I want to do afterwards. Yeah, and that's kind of how I got pulled into coaching. And so I went to coaching school. And over the last past kind of year or so, I've got my own business. I jumped into solopreneurship. I was very scary at that point because, having worked in corporate, anything that happens, I just call the help desk, call the marketing department, call the sales department, call operations. I didn't have to do any of it, right? I just had to do my little bit. And now I get to do all of it. But it is so rewarding. It is so much fun. And I get to be me. I get to be totally me. And that's been my experience over the last few years is kind of shedding all the things that I thought I needed to be, or what society told me I had to be, or the messages that I told myself in terms of how I should be a good Chinese wife, but I've got a white English husband, and how I should be the best mother, how I should be the best colleague, the best employee, the best. And I'm like, actually, some of that is a bit BS, actually. And I've kind of let some of that go. And so what do? I help high achieving professionals who are a bit overwhelmed with managing both their careers and their life by you know providing a pathway to a more balanced work-life balance so that they continue finding success in their career and peace and fulfillment at home with their kids.
I love that. Oh, Doris, thank you so much for being so open and so transparent. It's really, really beautiful to see your beautiful soul. And I love you're so good in storytelling, I have to say. You
Thank
have
you.
you have a gift there. Yes. It's beautiful. Whoever is watching us or whoever is listening to us, I know you said that you had to work on yourself and you had to really, really understand to listen to your own voice and to
Yes.
be true to who you are. What would you say was one step, or maybe two or even three steps that you took in order to align yourself and starting the the
Yeah.
coach business?
So what happened to me was uh, it actually was kind of life circumstances, but because I wasn't working and I was just settling the family in Greece, I had the kind of space, I had the mental capacity to kind of take some time out and say, what's really happening here? I never had that while I was doing the, 60-hour weeks or more and the travel and whatever else. So I had that my husband going to Greece just gifted me this time out for me to kind of reset. And so I kind of, instead of normally what I would have done was just to push through. So what really happened was that my oldest son at that point was about, I guess, 7, 8. He's now 13 minus 3. I can do maths, can't I? You're right, 8 or 9. Um, he went through this, obviously, either some growth spurt. Kids don't come with friggin', manuals, do they? And every child is different. I've got two, right? He suddenly had this huge anger issues at home, and everything was my fault, right? I was the worst thing that has ever happened to him, right? And I got to a point where, oh my goodness, what I've been doing up until now is no longer working. And so I put my hand up. I said, I need some help here. And this was the first time in my parenting career that I said, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this anymore. I need help. And just, universe works in crazy ways, right? Just so happened, just as I was thinking that, there was a seminar on at school. I went on it online, and the lady who was taking it was a coach, and she was a psychologist. And she rang some parenting groups. And I said, I'm coming. I'm coming. Right. So I went to parenting class for the first time ever. Um, and did I think I was, oh my God, I'm useless. I mean, I need to go to parenting classes. I have never heard of anyone going to parenting classes, but I'm not good enough. But you know what? I got to a point where it's like, I just got to let go of what I think I'm doing, because obviously what I'm doing, I can see it and I can feel it's not working. So I just got to accept that, right? What I am doing isn't working. And by that point, I'd had some stuff about personal development and was, leaning into it. And it's like, actually, the only thing that I can change is me, right? I cannot really change him. I can control him because I'm still the parent, but that's not really how I want to be as a parent. That's kind of how I grew up, in a very strict Chinese household. But I knew that that was what I wanted to do with my kids. So I went to parenting class. Was it, rocket science? No, it wasn't. But it gave me that space to be with other people and to kind of talk about the issues that I were having, and to get that kind of knowledge from a psychologist perspective, like, this is how a child works around this age and that age and whatever else, right? And I was like, oh, okay. So I am not useless. Oh, well, that's good. That's good, right? And actually then that allowed me to say, oh, okay. So there is different pathways of going through it. And she took us through a process. And it was very much the kind of, as long as I'm sure about what it is that I want, right? And it was all that feeling, the feelings, the anger and all that kind of stuff, it's just learning about, if I show up angry, right? There is this mirror neuron inside, in front of a brain that actually mimics what you see. So if he shows up angry, I show up angry, he gets even more angry, and then it ratchets us up. And I was like, oh, okay. So if I can try and contain my annoyance with him or whatever else, I can not escalate it. And that was the biggest lesson. It's like, what is it that I can do just to kind of stay calm and not allow it to,
Flare
go
up.
yeah. And then what happened also was that with all of that, it's kind of like, and then slowly that got me drawn into coaching. And then I started coaching. And then it was the whole, what is it that you truly want for your child? And I was like, do you know what? I'm still figuring out what it is that I want for me, never mind my child, right? But then I was kind of stepping into his shoes and say, what is it that you're trying to do, Doris, with your child? And I was like, oh, so there was this whole unpeeling, right, about actually I was trying to fit him into a box that I wanted him to fit in. He never signed the contract to say this is the box that I want to be in. That was just what I was doing subconsciously. I was trying to bring him up subconsciously the way that my parents taught me. And I wasn't really conscious of it. So once I got really created awareness inside me about, okay, that was the biggest bit. I actually cried in that coaching session because it's like, Doris, you're in so much pain. And I just sat there. I was like, what do you mean? Initially, it was different. What do you mean? I'm a high achieving professional. I've done all these kind of things. What do you mean I'm in pain? I'm not in pain. But it was afterwards, she was like, I sat there and I was like, oh shit. I felt as if but the initial reaction was just instinctive, was to fight back. And I was like, okay, there is some stuff going on here, right? So it was that So I guess, I've got Sammy and Alex, my husband, to thank about going on to this journey because they showed me just there was a different way of being. So when I totally leaned into that, I just sat there and was like, okay, actually, I don't have to do this alone. Yes, I am the mother. Genetically, I'm the mother, but I don't have to do this alone. And actually, he's an 8, 9 year old. He can understand. So I actually sat him down and I said to him, do you know what? This is the first time, in my life I've done this. Mummy's never been a mummy to an 8 year old before, right? So every day is new. So either you can come with me and we can work it out together because I'm done. There are some rules, right? Under my roof, it's my rules, right? I will school you, I will feed you, I will educate you, all of this kind of stuff, right? But how you and I work together, that's teamwork, right? So how about you help me, right? Without the whiny voice, right? You can say exactly the same things without the whiny voice, right? And we can work it out together. And it's been this beautiful process where I've seen him change and a lot calmer, and I'm becoming a better person at the same time, right? And that's this, and whenever things get hit up, instead of saying, I used to say, that's the way, I'm just telling you and shout at him. I'm just like, right, okay, I don't know. Help me, because I really don't know what to do now. And he just sits there. I was like, oh, oh, okay, okay. Mummy doesn't have all the answers. I was like, Mummy has a lot of answers, but Mummy doesn't have your answers. Your answers are with you, right? I'm very happy to help you find your answers, but you got to work with me. So I think that is that kind of growth in, as you have older children, as the kids go, because when they were 3 or 4, I couldn't talk to them like that, right? Because they didn't have the mental capacity to understand that. So what I've learned from all this is different stages, different approaches, right? So it just made me like, okay, I'm not really tied to how he's going to turn up. All I'm tied to is how I'm showing up in our relationship, right? And then it's a different kettle of fish with my daughter, right? So it kind of sit there. It's like I could got to do it because I always thought that everyone has to be done exactly the same. My children has to be exactly the same, but actually, yes, exactly the same in terms of the love and the holidays that we take them, but how I treat one and I treat the other has to be different because they're different people. And that was okay, right? But I had in my head, everyone's got to be exactly the same. So why does one do one when I do say something and the other one doesn't? So I was like, oh my God, I've got to sort it out. And it was driving me crazy. And actually now I'm not crazy anymore, right? Because it's just a natural process. I had so many beliefs, so many things that I had inside me that I thought this was the way to do it. And now I've kind of thrown away that rule book. I'm just like, yeah, blank page, blank page. Your kids, you want to come and help me draw on this, right? And show me what is needed now for you. Because I'm not saying that I can fix it all, right? I'm not saying that at all. But what I can say to you is that, and what I'm definitely going to is sit here and listen and try and help you to work it through, right? I'm not saying that, oh, you want something, I'm going to buy it for you. That's not how it works, right? But if you have any issues that you're dealing with, because emotions wasn't really something that I discussed when I was a child, right? It just wasn't. I was very dictatorial. I tell you sit and you immediately sit. It's not let's count to 10, sit, right? It was immediately now sit, right? And now I said to the kids, I was like, no, it's you have a choice too, right? So yeah, so it's a beautiful journey to get to that. And so yeah, so it's been what lessons? All of it is a lesson. Every single day is a lesson, right? But it is actually listening. I think truly listening without the brain thinking of, oh yeah, okay, I've now got the next email to write, and yeah, this is the next meeting, and then next week I've got to plan my travel, or none of that. Yeah, it's that 20 seconds when I'm noticing something. It's like, oh, okay, he needs something or she needs something. Right, hold on a second. Can we just sit down and talk to me and really listen? Even when they're whining, really listening instead of getting yourself annoyed without it, as coaches, right? You kind of say, it's actually just a mirror. When he's upset, it's actually probably most of the time it's not upset with me. He's actually upset with something inside himself because he's not being able to fix it or see his way through it, right? And all I can do is just sit there and say, and be calm. Doesn't work all the time, obviously, but it's just try and be that calm and say, right, are you ready to have this conversation? Because I'm not allowing you to use me as your punching bag. Because that's not what I'm here for, right? That's not my role in your life. And be very clear about that, right? So that he knows where his boundaries are. I will help you with anything. Just talk to me nicely. No shouting or screaming. That's it. My ears now don't listen to shouting and screaming anymore. I do the whole la 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 la. That's what I'm hearing. La 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 la. I don't know what it is I'm saying. I haven't learned that language. I haven't learned that language, so I'm really sorry. I don't understand. And they look at me really angrily, but then it gets the point across without me telling them off. I don't understand what you're saying. I just hear some really high-pitched noise or something like that. Just to kind of make it fun. It's like, look, nothing has to be that important, right? I mean, blood stays on the inside, the bones stay whole. It's okay, right? It's all.
Wow, Doris, so much value, I have to say. This is incredible. More than anything, I think you should start looking into parenting coaching because you have so much knowledge. I've been a teacher for over 10 years, I have to say. But seeing your transformation, I think you can help so many other parents out there. Like for real, because it's your journey and you went from here to here. Like, oh, super. And you changed so much, which is
Yes.
incredible. So,
Yes.
congratulations. Really
Thank you.
well done for all those achievements because they're huge achievements. And I'm so glad you went into coaching now because you are definitely meant for this. When you mentioned about listening, I really, probably everyone who's listening now, you went to a stage in your life when you met someone and all they cared about it was for them to take the lead and for them to talk back. So you were starting a conversation and then they couldn't wait for another 2 seconds for you to finish your sentence and they would jump in with their problems, with their things. So just so you know, those people really probably shouldn't be in your life because you need someone to truly listen to you. So, have effective listening is someone to truly understand what you're saying, use the same words back to you just to make sure, you know, they are there for you, not just hearing what you're saying, which is a huge difference.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. So, tell
And
me
I think
more
what
about the business side. Mhm.
okay, so my business is I as I said, I help clients with all sorts. And like I say, I see this kind of beautiful parallel in terms of, parenting and leadership, right? We're all leaders, right? Whether you actually are a manager of a team or not, right? I'm leading myself every single day, right? I choose what clothes I put on, what I choose, what coffee I'm going to have, what choose what I have for breakfast. I'm making decisions for me. As long as you're making decisions, you're a leader, right? It isn't just in a title. So that's also something I've moved on. I used to be someone that, oh, I'm my title, my title, this is who I am. And now I'm like, no, I'm just me. I'm just Doris Walsh, right? And there is less that kind of dependency on the external world to tell me who I am, right? I was only ever as good as my next promotion or my next pay rise or whatever else. But in terms of the parenting side, I see all the skills that I am using with my clients, I'm using with my kids. It's the same skills, right? My different words, right? And obviously with the kid, there's more emotional, attachment to that, right? So, that is a little bit more difficult sometimes to kind of, pull yourself away from. Um, but it's the same. It's the same skills, right? And what I help my clients with is help them kind of really define truly what success truly means for them. Because what I see is that, okay, once we decided or some sort of decision, not really potentially conscious. It's like, you go through education and then, okay, I'm going to go and get a corporate job. Okay, so what does that mean? So if I get a job and I keep getting promoted or pay rises and some travel and whatever, right? And get more people underneath me, that is what success is. And once you're on that wheel, you don't reassess it, right? I certainly didn't, right? And this is where I got to my, mid 40s and I sat there and was like, is this it? Why am I not as happy as I think I ought to be? And why is it doesn't seem to be working anymore? Because I I worked really hard, getting on that corporate ladder and my career trajectory. I didn't think, or I think there's probably more awareness now. I didn't think about how the kids were going to slot in. I was like, no, my career path is going to go like that. The kids will just have to come on top of that, right? And I didn't even come into my head. You've now got two full-time jobs. Which one is more important to you? I was like, I've worked so hard to get to where I am in my corporate. I'm not giving that up. No, I'm not giving that up, right? And then that comes that battle, right? Oh, I feel a bit guilty. Oh my God, I can't do it all. And that those kind of feelings, those feelings of overwhelm and I'm stuck. I just don't know what to do anymore. I have no more hours, right? I have no more minute. I am annoyed when I'm at work. I am upset when I'm at home. I'm like, life is so hard. And that's kind of where I get them and say, look, what is really important, right? You can't have 100 important things. Then that means that there's nothing that's important, right? How about we just pick the top 3 to 5, right? And see how that works. And actually, really, you're now in a very different age to when you were in your 20s, right? So life changes all the rest, right? So what's really important for you now? And it's okay to let go of things that were important to you 20 years ago that you've kind of hung on to. It's kind of like that baggage that we all have. Oh no, no, I've spent so much time and so much effort and I've got to keep it, I've got to keep it, I can't let it go, can't let it go. Although it's draining your energy. Oh, I can't let it go. I've worked so hard for it, right? So it's kind of me and my career, right? But it's kind of like, but it doesn't work for you anymore. So why are you still carrying this heavy load with you, right? And then they're like, well, but it's that sunk cost fallacy, right? It's that, oh, but I spent so much time and effort and all kinds of, yeah, but if it's not working for you, right? If you don't let it go, going forward, it's going to be the same. Till you get
Yeah,
to where it
that's
is that you
so
want, you're going to change.
important.
Yeah.
That's so, wow. I have to stop you there just to ask you a really good question. And very simple. How can you let it go? What's your quickest way for someone in very easy steps could do that straight away? If they really want the transformation, they can make it happen right now. That's a choice. How can they start letting it go?
So what I typically ask, it'll be a few minutes exploration to say, okay, if you want to carry this on, how has what you're carrying now, how has that worked for you in the last 6 to 8 months? And then be like, it hasn't really, right? I mean, how has it really contributed to your quality of life or to the time that you want or, whatever it is that, the client wants, right? More of. It's like, how has this positively impacted that? How has this positively helped you get to where you want? And they were like, no. And I'm like, okay, so if this was just something that you haven't just carried around for 20 years, right? But if this was something that you can buy off the shelf now, would you buy it? No, I wouldn't buy it. Okay, so don't buy into it just because, you weren't the same person as you were 20 years ago. Right? You're 20 years older, you've got 20 years more experience and all this kind of stuff. It is okay to let go. And sometimes it's something even just as simple as that, it's okay to let go. Because who is putting a gun to your head to say that you've got to carry on? And you're like, no one. Okay. So then it's your decision. Do you want to let this go? Right? It is tackling from as many different angles as possible. It's like, and making it really clear. It's like, you're coming to me, right? Because coaching is you got to put in the effort. Right? I don't have a magic pill, right? All I'm saying is that you're telling me that what I'm hearing from you and seeing from you is that this is painful, what you're carrying, right? If it was a hot potato, you drop it. What is required? What is it that you need to do to drop this, right? And most of the time, it's all these limiting beliefs that we've got because, it's sunk cost and I've spent so much time and effort and all this kind of stuff, right? And you're kind of like, yeah, so only you can make that decision. No one is going to make that decision for you. But
Yeah.
I give you permission to let it go. And sometimes it's enough. And then we get to a point further, it's like, you don't need permission from me. That was just the start. You can give yourself permission to do anything that you want, providing the end result is what it is that gets you towards whatever goal that you're working on, right? So yeah, that's what I help. Do you have any other suggestions?
No, I'm thinking now, based on everything you said, it's beautiful. Probably what I do, maybe sometimes it's a case of asking them also in the worst case scenario, how this will go. And this is when they will be like, okay, like if I continue like this, exactly the way it is, where this can go, is it going to get any better?
Yeah,
or
very
even
powerful.
worse, and then just make them think about the worst case scenario. That can be like a light bulb for some of them.
Yes, yes, yes.
But
And
it's
I think, like you say, it's kind of like, depends on the client because different clients will resonate with more of the different ideas, right? And all of them, or none of them, or even more ideas will come up, and it's just in the moment, right? Seeing where the client's energy is, right? And then,
exactly.
it's like, oh, and you kind of feel that light bulb moment. He's like, yeah, you have the choice. You think you don't have a choice. That's what you're thinking, right? You think it's life is just black and white, but life isn't black and white, right? There's many different, you just need to open your eyes, right?
Yeah.
You
But
know?
from your experience, what did you face the most? Because letting it go, I know the way we sound it is like very simple because it is simple. Once you make that decision that you let it go, you can, like I said early on, and like you said it as well, we know because we saw the transformation
Yeah,
and we saw it, it can happen literally in a few seconds.
yeah.
But, but what do you think it really holds them back? Is it a case of judgment, not disappointing their parents, their friends, their neighbors? What's the biggest thing that you see quite common?
It's probably what I call your inner voice, inner critic, the gremlin, the saboteur that's inside you. Which is programming from when around the age 5, 6, right, when that's sat. So, if you think of that computer program that we've got in our brain, it is those messages we haven't actually updated and we've carried them forward. So it's typically what we call limiting beliefs, right, in our speak. And that is typically a lot of it, right? So, and it's getting down to the, you know, why the show me proof basically that you cannot let it go, or show me, where does it say, right? And show me the proof that is, and challenging the client. So it's typically, to your question, the hardest bit is letting go those thoughts that they've been carrying around for 30, 40 some years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. And that's the fun part because that's the reason why so many times the transformation really happens and it's a really life-changing, like
Yes.
not just your life, like your family life, the
Yes.
community you're living in, even the city, even the country, you can actually change so much because you started changing yourself,
Yes.
which is incredible. And this is how a coach can help you
Yes.
because we
Definitely.
know only what we know,
Yes.
especially
Yes.
if it's subconsciously. That's pretty tricky to do it on yourself because you have the same cassette playing. And
Yeah.
even if you want to step out of your comfort zone, if you want to do that, you're subconsciously you're limiting yourself.
Yes, it's all of that is so true. And what I find is that, people always think they always tend to look outside first, right? It's their fault or it's the situation or, and they're judging things, right? And actually, transformation, as you said, right, it just all starts with me, right? With us, right? Because once we change our viewpoint of stuff, everything around us changes, right? So it's kind of like, what, one of my clients is like, look, he was talking about his partner and, I was like, yeah, but there's two of you in this relationship. So if one of you changes, this relationship will also change, right? And it was like, oh, okay. You don't both have to change. You because you can't control another person, another adult, right? Another, there's love in your life, right? You can only control you. So you work on yourself, letting go of how she should be or how they don't do this thing or that thing or whatever. Change your perception of it, right? And be more empathetic and compassionate and all of that towards yourself, right? Because I love saying that you can only give as much as you've got. So you can only love another person as much as you love yourself. That was one of the biggest learning I've had because I got this question. It's like, how much do you love yourself? And I just had this visceral, I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? How much do I love myself? You know what I mean? And then actually I started thinking about it. Well, actually, I only love myself when I get another
Achieve
client. I
something.
only love myself and I was like, oh, right. So I was like, oh, this is juicy, right? So I had to go to my coach and work through that. So it's like, because because that was quite scary to me. It's like, so that means then I only love my children conditionally rather than unconditionally. And I was like, well, that's not good enough. I want to love my children unconditionally. I don't want to love my children only because they get the right grades at school, they get to the right school or whatever. I don't want any of that. I love my children no matter what, right? I might be get disappointed and I might not like them very much in a moment, but that's okay. When I'm whining at someone, they don't like me in that moment either, right? So that's okay. But yeah, so it was that whole unlearning the conditional love because that's how we get taught in society, right? Oh yeah, you go to team sport, you got to win. There's got to be a winner and a loser, right? And at school, you get, top marks, or you're in an A class or the B class or the C class. We always grade ourselves. That's how we go through normal life. But in terms personally, it kind of like, no, I got to love myself unconditionally, right? It isn't just because, I showed up on on Alexandra's that now I'm worthy. It's like, no, it is, I am, no matter what it is, I'm worthy as I am. I don't have to do anything more, right? It's just whether I want to do any more. So, and going through that, to show that with people and to share that with them is quite powerful, right? And that's ultimately my aim, to make people be more compassionate, be more empowered to be who they truly are without having to put on masks, because I did that for nearly 20 some years, right? And it's tiring. And sometimes you actually, like, subconsciously you didn't know. But at some point, your body will start telling you, and thoughts will start coming. It's like, you sure this is what you want to do? You know?
Mm.
And most of
Wow.
the time you ignore it. And then suddenly, when you give it space, you kind of like, maybe I do want to think about that.
And this is the reason why you get into a disease, illness, feeling
Yes.
miserable, just being victimizing all the time, complaining all the time, and being on autopilot all the time, having no energy, saying life is difficult, and all of that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Everything you just said, it's super powerful. Thank you so much. This was
Yeah. Yeah.
incredible. And I love the example you gave it to your client with the relationship, because they're two partners. I love it because I'm saying so often to my clients that if you see something in someone else that you don't like, or that frustrates you or makes you angry, that means that something inside you still needs that some work
Yeah.
on exactly the
Yeah.
same thing, because you wouldn't see that unless still needs work in you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's so powerful. But a lot of people, it's painful because it's not easy, right? Looking at the ugly parts, right, of yourself, because there's a reason why we've hidden it really, 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 really deep, right? But it takes courage. It takes courage and vulnerability to let that out. But once you let it out, oh my God, the energy that you
Yeah.
release from that is like,
Exactly. And it's the acceptance. And I think they do need everything you just said. You gave them so many tools and strategies to navigate this, because it's always a case of starting from somewhere. Just start doing it. Start accepting that you're dealing with problems, because we all do. The
yes,
difference is that when you are aligned and when you're happy, you see the problems differently, and
yes,
your reaction to problems is completely different. That's the
yes,
only shift, and that's the only change, and then you live your life differently. So Doris,
totally.
before I let you go, is there a final message you like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I think, you know what? Life doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to do more, right? It is okay to ask for help, right? There are always people there to help you, right? So, and you don't have to do it alone. That's it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Doris. And people can find you on happybunny.coach. That's
Yeah.
your
And
website.
right. And on LinkedIn, I'm active on LinkedIn. So find me using my name, Doris Walsh, on LinkedIn. And yeah, and if anyone wants to, just have a chat, just DM me or message me or email me, and let's see how we can help each other.
That's beautiful. And whoever wants to connect with Doris, please send her butterflies, because she will know you're coming from this community and she has some special discounts for you. Thank you, Doris, for being here. I really appreciate everything you said. It was phenomenal. And whoever listens or whoever listened or watching us, please take a note and take a pen, take a moment, a pen and a paper, and go back and listen again and take some notes and start implementing everything that Doris mentioned to us, because it's a transformational journey that you can go through just by listening to this podcast, because it's full packed with value and methods and strategies that she's been through, and she changed lots of lives already, and her own life changed because of everything she accomplished so far. So thank you very much. This is all from today. carry on, keep on smiling, and remember you are in control of your life and you can design your own life. Keep on smiling. And this is all from today. And we will expect you to be back on another episode from PU Podcast. Thank you for listening and keep on shining.